The lobby of the prestigious Franklin and Moore law firm buzzed with the usual Monday morning rush, attorneys briskly walking with coffee in hand, assistants juggling files, and clients checking in at the front desk. The marble floors gleamed under the soft lighting, freshly polished and still slightly damp from a recent cleaning. A tall, sharply dressed man in a tailored navy suit, Leonard Grayson, a senior partner known for his arrogance, strode in with the swagger of someone used to being obeyed. As he approached the elevators, his Italian leather shoes slipped slightly on the wet floor. He stopped abruptly, scowling, and looked down in disgust. "Seriously," he snapped, glaring at the man mopping nearby. "Do you not understand how to schedule cleaning outside of business hours?" The janitor, a black man in his late 30s wearing navy overalls and a name badge that read M. Johnson, didn't react right away. He calmly wrung out his mop and replied, "Sorry, sir. Just doing my job. Should be dry in a minute." Grayson scoffed. "Your job is to stay out of the way of people doing real work. This is a law firm, not a subway station." His voice was loud enough to draw glances from others in the lobby. A receptionist looked up nervously but said nothing. "Mr. Johnson" met Grayson's glare without flinching. "Understood," he said simply, his tone level. Grayson shook his head in disgust and muttered, "Unbelievable," as he stepped past the mop and boarded the elevator. The janitor watched him go, then glanced at a small pin beneath his name tag, a discreet federal seal. His eyes narrowed slightly, but he returned to mopping, calm and composed. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Leonard Grayson stepped inside, still grumbling under his breath. He didn't notice the janitor, Mr. Johnson, quietly step in behind him, mop bucket left by the wall. A young associate and a paralegal already stood in the elevator, their small talk dying down as the tension from the lobby followed Grayson in like a storm cloud. As the elevator ascended, Grayson glanced at the janitor standing near the back corner, arms folded. He smirked and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "Funny how some people spend their whole lives mopping floors. No ambition, no drive. Just pushing a mop like it's some noble calling." He chuckled dryly. The paralegal shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking toward the janitor. Mr. Johnson didn't respond, but his calm gaze never left Grayson's reflection in the polished elevator walls. Grayson, emboldened by the silence, continued. "You know, this building houses some of the finest legal minds in the country. It's a shame we have to step over lesser folks just to get to our offices." Mr. Johnson finally spoke, his voice measured. "Success isn't always worn on a suit, sir. You'd be surprised what people in overalls are capable of." Grayson raised an eyebrow, amused. "Oh, enlighten me. You an expert on social mobility now. Maybe you read a law book while scrubbing a toilet." The elevator dinged at the 18th floor. Grayson straightened his tie, scoffing. "Try not to scuff the floor after I leave." As the doors opened, Mr. Johnson gave a small nod. "Have a good day, sir." The associate and paralegal stepped out silently, stealing glances back. Grayson didn't notice. He didn't see the hint of a smile tugging at the janitor's lips as the doors closed again. The courtroom was packed. Polished wood gleamed under bright lights, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Leonard Grayson sat confidently at the defense table, flanked by junior attorneys and assistants. He tapped his pen rhythmically, barely containing his smirk. This case, a high-profile white-collar crime indictment, had made headlines for weeks. Grayson was ready to dazzle the court with his renowned wit and ruthless cross-examination. Across the room, the judge entered and everyone rose. "Be seated," the judge said. "We are now in session." The clerk stood and cleared her throat. "Your Honor, representing the United States in this matter, Special Prosecutor Marcus Johnson." Grayson frowned, his pen stilling. That name, it sounded familiar. Before he could process further, the courtroom doors opened. In walked Mr. Johnson, but he wasn't in overalls now. He wore a crisp, tailored gray suit, a slim black tie, and carried a sleek leather briefcase. His walk was confident, composed. His gaze calm but purposeful. Grayson's jaw dropped slightly as recognition hit him like a hammer. The janitor, from earlier now stood tall at the prosecution table, placing his case notes with quiet precision. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as attorneys, reporters, and spectators realized what had just happened. Mr. Johnson adjusted his glasses, then looked directly at Grayson with a polite, almost amused smile. He addressed the judge in a firm, articulate voice. "Good morning, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready to proceed." Grayson blinked, his face flushing a deep red. The confidence he'd worn all morning began to crack. His junior attorneys whispered in confusion, but he waved them off, eyes still locked on the man he had humiliated just hours earlier. The janitor wasn't just part of the courtroom, he owned the room now. The courtroom had settled into a stunned silence as Marcus Johnson, now clearly in his role as special prosecutor, began his opening statement. His voice was calm, steady, and sharp with authority. Each word he spoke cut through the courtroom like a scalpel, precise, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. This case, he began, pacing slowly in front of the jury, is not just about financial fraud. It's about the abuse of trust, the manipulation of systems, and the belief that power places someone above the law. Grayson sat rigidly in his chair, struggling to maintain the confidence he was so well known for. He tried to keep his expression neutral, but the earlier arrogance had vanished. Now, he was watching the same man he'd insulted in an elevator and mocked in a lobby command the courtroom with unshakable poise. Johnson presented the facts cleanly, showing evidence and methodically dismantling the defense's anticipated strategies. His calm professionalism only made the memory of Grayson's insults sting harder. When he finished, Johnson walked past the defense table to return to his seat. He paused just briefly next to Grayson, leaned slightly closer, and spoke in a voice only he could hear. "Funny how life works, isn't it?" Johnson said, smiling faintly. "Some people spend their lives pushing the truth, others push mops. Only one of them standing here today." Grayson's throat tightened, but he said nothing. He couldn't. As Johnson returned to the prosecution table, murmurs of admiration rippled through the gallery. Even the judge seemed mildly impressed. Grayson sat back in his chair, no longer tapping his pen, just gripping it tightly, eyes fixed ahead, as the man he dismissed now held his fate in his hands.